Alex, so I've wanted to interview you for a while on this topic of ownership, obviously. But a big theme for me now is just fear and how you respond to fear. And I got the thought because I saw a post you had a few days ago where you talked about don't let fear become panic. And I've listened to a few of your interviews where you talked about you actually started A-Rod Corp, frankly, because you were afraid. So spend a second maybe talking about how A-Rod Corp got started, how fear played a role in it.
Yeah. So thank you for having me, Cedric. Love Project Destined and love working with you and the organization. I started real estate almost 20 years ago because that's all I understood. Growing up here in South Florida, my mother had two jobs and we always rented. We didn't have enough capital to buy anything. And we kept moving from time to time because landlords kept raising the rents. So I kind of made a promise to myself that the first opportunity I would get to buy a piece of real estate and be the landlord, not the tenant, I would do that. And when I was in my early 20s, when I was playing with Seattle, I didn't have a lot of capital, but I decided to put about $48,000 to work. And had to do my own version of raising capital, which was go in and sell a couple of my watches. That's what you do when you're down here in Miami, you sell watches. And then I bought a nice investment and a couple of years later sold it for double. And then bought 4 units and 8 units and then kind of build a multifaceted real estate company that owned up to over 10,000 apartment units.
Wow. So talk about that first deal. I mean, how did you get started? What were your concerns? I mean, what was in your mind? You're having a great baseball career. Why real estate?
It's like anything else. You just have to not dip your toe in the water. You just got to jump in and have some faith. And, one of the things is you always want to protect downside. And you always have to answer the question as an investor, if it all goes wrong, am I going to be okay?
Yeah.
And I asked myself that question 3 or 4 times. And while it would have been really, really tough to lose $48,000, which was my down payment, I figured that I was young enough that I can make it back. So that gave me the confidence to go in with confidence and conviction when there was not a lot of signs for me to be confident. So that's what I did. I got a loan from the bank for about a couple $100,000. And as I went off to spring training that year, I was really hoping that my tenant, I had 2 of them, would pay the rent so I can cover my overhead.
And so, Alex, so during that time period, because I want to relate it to today and this whole idea of trying to use patterns, did you have any criteria for that first investment? I mean, obviously Miami, Miami, but any other criteria that you used to kind of guide you?
Yeah, I think always trying to stick to what Warren Buffett talks about, staying in your circle of competence. And for me, it was Miami. It was near the water. It was an area that was in the up and come. And it was right near the Miami Arena where the Miami Heat play, right on Biscayne and 18th, right there near the water. So fundamentally, I knew this was a good city, primary market, near the water. It was 7-8 minutes away from Miami Beach. It was 7-8 minutes away from Coral Gables. So theoretically, all those kind of data points made me feel comfortable.
Yeah. But you didn't start there, right? I mean, because by the end of it, you've got assets all around the Southeast. So again, leading up to 2007, which is where I want to sort of look into, you did more of it. What led you to do more? What cities outside of Miami? Because again, you're still playing baseball. So what was guiding you to go and continue to make more investments?
Yeah, so fundamentally, I always say the toughest move is the first one. And once I made that investment, I felt that I liked it, and I saw the income coming in, and I was able to pay off my debt. And while I wasn't making a lot of cash flow, I was breaking even. And that was good enough for me because I had good revenue from my day job, which was playing for the Mariners at the time.
Yeah.
And then I started looking at opportunities around the duplex. So we ended up buying the 4-plex next to it, the 8-plex behind it. We bought 16 units in the other street. And in short order, we owned parts of 3 different lots that had R4 zoning underneath it, which our zoning here in South Florida means you can go up sky high. So we knew that our investment thesis was twofold. One, we're land banking and breaking even in our money. So meaning we don't have negative cash flow every month.
Mm-hmm.
And two was that one day you would have a developer maybe come to us and buy the land and hope to build, a big mixed-use project or something. And ironically, right before 07, 08 is when we sold those, and it really saved a large part of the portfolio.
Oh, wow. So I was asking the next question. So coming up 2007 and 8, how many assets do you have? What's going on in your portfolio?
Yeah, so great question. We had probably about 5,000 or 6,000 apartment units all over the Southeast. A big portfolio in Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater area.
Yeah.
And again, areas I understood because my thesis was if it was good enough for George Steinbrenner to bring the Yankees to Tampa, it's certainly good enough for A-Rod Corp to go there. Yeah. And when I signed with the Yankees in 04, I wanted to collect several thousand units within a mile of George Steinbrenner Field on Dale Mabry Road.
Wow.
And in 08, we actually just closed on a 550 apartment unit complex, and there were 3 of them, and we paid around $60,000 a door, and literally like overnight, we owed 40. We had 20,000 of equity, and overnight they were worth $37,000 a door. So we were backwards, and we had more debt than the property was worth, and that was a great lesson, right?
Yeah.
And I was fortunate that I have a great president that's been with us for many, many years, a guy by the name of Stuart Zook.
Yeah, of course.
And he was able to negotiate with the banks a pay down and a big write down. And we got over that. And the lessons there were after that is never personally guarantee anything. Always go non-recourse.
Non-recourse.
The young listeners, non-recourse. That is the key. Never PG. Personally guaranteed. Don't ever do it. No need to do it. I'd rather see the young investors get an extra equity partner and less leverage, but certainly no recourse.
But again, the banks are a mess at this point in time, right? So all over the country, there's sort of dislocation. How do you have the confidence when people are running to go to the bank and say, it's not my problem, it's our problem, and get them to come to the table? Like, what's that process like?
Well, that's when a great team and reputation comes into play. Because when you have a great team and reputation, there could be 1 million people in line, you go right to the front of the line. Because the banks, they don't like any surprises. They like certainty. And I thought that's what we gave them. To this day, we've never been late on a loan. We've never defaulted on a loan. All our loans are good. The banks we did a deal back then are still our banks today. So reputation is everything. Under promise and over deliver. Yeah. And if you have to, again, always deliver the bad news, but be upfront and be honest. And I think it paid great dividends for us because they were very patient. We worked out a very good deal. And on the back end, we were able to structure something with it. We sweeten it on the back end. So the bank did well on the front end and the back end.
Got it. And so, Alex, there's something in CNN today that says, no one wants to buy houses now. There's a lot of fear in the marketplace. People are running. But it sounds like back in 07, 08, you had 5,000 assets, 5,000 units. And today, I think at your height, you had 15,000. So what happened between 07, 08 and that period? Did you buy more? What's going on in that 2007, 8 period?
Yeah, so, whoever's been in multifamily over the last 9.5 years has absolutely crushed it. Even Stevie Wonder can go buy real estate right now and make money over the last 9 years. So you can it's by the way, I love Stevie. He's my guy. That's my guy. But at the end of the day, all you had to do was be active and be in the market and deploy capital, and you were a winner. And you always separate kind of the pros and the amateurs in times like now, where there's panic, there's blood in the streets, people are wanting to make move and transactions. And the best thing to do in times like this is to sit tight, calm, don't watch so much the news, because that's going to be, you're going to be an emotional roller coaster. Here's what you need to know. If you're not over levered, If you own great companies, if you own great real estate, that within time, everything will come back to normal. You just have to be able to storm the weather and stay calm, cool, and collected.
Got it. So in the 708 time period, you're dealing with the operational issues in your existing portfolio and you're working with the banks. But when you're going out to buy new stuff, are you using the same criteria as when you first started, or did things change? Well, there's a lesson learned in between?
Yeah, I think a few things. Number one, just like now, we had several things under contract just 3-4 weeks ago. Well, today, even if they had deposits, the seller and the buyer, everyone's watching the same news. So there's been probably a price correction of 20 or 30%. So when the seller can actually say, hey, I'll keep your deposit and walk away, maybe that's not such a good strategy today. You may have to get back on the table and renegotiate with your buyer. So that's one thing. The lessons after 08, 09, they were simple. Things were cheaper, more attractive. And the market correction allowed you to deploy capital and buy real cash flow and put some moderate debt on these. And again, Fannie Mae, non-recourse. Non-recourse is the key there. And then the other part is never personally guarantee and don't over leverage, right? So if you want to, instead of doing 85% debt or 80% debt, we started entertaining more like 70% debt or 65% debt. And that kind of gives you a cushion that when the market softens, you still can, survive.
Got it. So you began to negotiate lower prices and more flexibility, but in exchange, you also took on lower debt.
Yes, and raise a little bit more equity.
More equity into the asset.
So lower debt, more equity, non-recourse.
And did you keep looking at the same geographies? Did you expand your geographies? How did you think about which markets might be attractive to you?
Yeah, our thesis has always been people naturally are going to migrate to the South. And more so today than ever before. People can work anywhere. They can work out of a cloud, right? And we look at where growth jobs are growing, whether it's South Carolina and North Carolina and San Antonio and Texas. We follow the jobs. And one of the things that Stuart likes is he doesn't like to invest in any major city where there's a direct flight to it. He likes to stop several times before you get to the destination, and thinks that's where the opportunities are.
No, I love it. I love it. What else? I mean, so today, like when you look at the market today, are you guys staying cautious? Are you actively looking at things? How are you responding to the current dislocation?
Yeah, I think just sitting and watching. I mean, look, we have been, Cedric, you and I are at the same age. I know that there's a lot of our friends that are double our age that have seen a lot of crazy things. I had a conversation with one of our partners. He's in his mid-70s, and he said in 75 years, I've never seen anything like this. This is crazy. So everybody's kind of waiting what the government's going to do, sitting and waiting where everything's going to, land. But right now is, we're taking it as a great opportunity to relax and spend time with our families and hug our loved ones.
No, I love it. So I'll get you out of here on this. So give me I know you're reading Bob Iger's book. What else are you reading to keep you busy? Yeah,
so I've been doing a bunch of audiobooks that, you can knock out a book a week, maybe 2 books a week. And it's great when you're traveling, but for some of the novices out there that are just starting to invest in real estate, when we come out of this disaster, there's going to be some really amazing opportunities, and it's a good time maybe to start your real estate career. Real Estate Riches is a book that I wrote the foreword to about 15 years ago by a gentleman, my buddy Dolph DeRoos. And it really talks about the fundamentals of how to get into real estate, how to think about it, and how to be a long-term thinker. I love any type of autobiographies. I've been doing a lot of reading on Steve Schwarzman, the founder of Blackstone. I like reading about history. So anything that kind of can tell me stories about some of the great icons in the world of business, not just real estate, I like to read. What are you reading, Cedric?
So I love this Bob Iger book. I mean, I think the Bob Iger book is fantastic. I mean, I don't think anyone, when they think of Disney, they don't think about an acquisition machine. And so I love the way Bob Iger walks you through his corporate career in terms of buying great assets. Because I think whether the market is challenged, turbulent, what have you, great assets are great assets. Coca-Cola, Nike, people are going to consume those. And so when Bob Iger sort of walks you through his history of buying Pixar, buying Marvel, and building those assets and then a distribution machine that Disney has, I just enjoy it. So I've read that. I've listened to that on audiobook actually and sent it to a lot of friends. So I'm a big fan of that. I'm reading a book called Brand Story, which is about just building brands because again, Iger's built this amazing brand or enhanced this amazing brand. So I'm just drawn to branding these days. So that's what I've been reading.
And when you look at this landscape and this unfortunate situation we're all in, where do you see the opportunities coming out of it, and what excites you about as an investor out there?
Yeah, I've always loved real estate. I mean, it's just there. We're not making any more of it. And so for me, it's about looking at the cities that I couldn't previously invest in that may be a little bit cheaper today. And I'll go and spend some time trying to invest there. I spend time there, and then I spend time in cities like Detroit and Baltimore. I love those cities that have gone through dislocation, gone through challenge, but there's some great assets there, and people always need housing. So for me, I like the real estate sector, enjoying all markets. Can you hear me, Alex? I think I lost you.
I lost you a little bit there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I was saying, so for me, it's real estate. It's sort of those markets that people have kind of given up on a little bit, and like Baltimore and Detroit, and then those great markets like the Bronx and others that may be a little bit less expensive following some of the current dislocation. So I'm spending a lot of time looking there, making calls, always just trying to collect information and make a smart decision.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I've been getting a lot of calls and like, hey, what do we do? What do we do? What's next? And it's like what's happening now is like you're in a crash scene. You're literally on the way in the ambulance, heading to the hospital, and it's like someone asking you, "What are we doing for dinner tonight?" Right? I mean, you gotta let it play out a little bit and be patient. And it's hard to think long term now when you're trying to keep the lights on right now.
Yes.
So I sympathize for everybody who has to keep the lights on, that has employees, and as a leader, all I can say is it's really important to stand up tall and send your troops a lot of confidence, because this is when leaders have to be leaders, right? When things are going great, it's easy to be a leader, but your troops need to hear the confidence and the strength that you have their backs in moments like this. And if all of us, Cedric, who own real estate and companies, it's really important to be the stand-up leader that you need to be for your troops right now.
And the other piece is for our young people. I mean, we, as you know, Project Destin, our whole platform is about teaching ownership to young people. And I don't want them to be mobilized by fear, but frankly, empowered by it New York's not going anywhere. Washington's not going anywhere. I want our young people to really think about the fundamentals of investing and knowing that those don't change even though a market is going into dislocation. And so what's really important to me is really taking this knowledge and sharing it with our young people. So, Alex, thank you so much for the time. One more thing. So we had a competition today, and the topic was obviously ownership and valuation. And Bronx Community College won today. So I'd love for you to give Bronx Community College a shout out because they did tremendous today.
All right. Well, I want to give the Bronx Community College some love from South Florida here, and keep up the good work. And anything that has a Bronx in front of it, I love.
Alex, thank you so much for the time.